The nation's governors are meeting in Washington today and discussing employment and energy at a conference called Good Jobs, Green Jobs. With us now for what the states might gain from this meeting, the governor of Colorado, the Honorable Bill Ritter. Governor Ritter, welcome to Bloomberg News. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks, Mark. It's great to be here. Actually, the nation's governors aren't meeting. I'm here at a meeting that is about jobs and about the sort of this blue-green alliance that's been formed that has to do with finding ways to build a workforce in the clean technology and clean energy world.
Well, thank you very much. We stand corrected. If I may begin, let's first talk about this oil spill, because I think there might be some correlation between that and green jobs. Is it going to affect the amount of green jobs out there now?
Well, I do think that it provides a graphic way of talking about the relationship between environmental hazards and fossil fuel production. There are some cleaner fossil fuels. We've done our own bit in trying to really promote the production of natural gas, but I think people looking at this are going to have to reconcile the fact that there's an environmental consequence to fossil fuel production, and this is just one more example, and there are others in our past, but this is a pretty graphic one, and I think it helps with the conversation for people who are looking at ways to promote green job development.
Sir, when you talk about environmental consequences, can we assume that those consequences will be felt outside the Gulf of Mexico?
Well, I think there's a couple of parts to that. I think from a financial perspective, they're likely to be felt outside the Gulf of Mexico. The notion that BP will pay for the cleanup is something that could have consequences really on the world markets with respect to oil prices. But I think the real consequence can be felt by folks along the Gulf. But that's the same with Katrina. It still impacted all of us in a very significant and a serious way.
Governor, I want to ask you about green jobs generally and the growth of green jobs. One of my colleagues who covers the alt energy industry told me earlier today, direct employment in wind power here, about 85,000, direct in solar, about 46,000. That's not a whole lot of jobs. So how are we going to see big growth in that area? What's going to spur it?
Well, public policy is going to spur it, and that's the story of Colorado. We talk about it in terms of the new energy economy, and I think I've signed somewhere over 40, 45 bills into law over 4 legislative sessions that were about promoting this clean energy economy. And again, part of it is promoting natural gas, but also trying to find the window on renewable energies. We've passed a bill this session that takes us to a 30% renewable energy standard. We've seen a lot of companies make decisions about moving to Colorado in the wind and the solar area, in part because of that renewable energy standard, but also because we're doing significant research and development. We have national laboratories, we have really great research institutions, and ConocoPhillips decided to build its global center for alternative and renewable research in Colorado. Siemens, a German company, building a wind test center there. And then we have several great manufacturing stories, all related back to the policy choices that we've made in the new energy economy.
Governor, I'm curious, though, what you think the risks are when much of this is driven by public policy or by subsidies in many cases. I mean, we've seen, for example, over in Europe, where you've had heavy subsidization of wind power in countries like Germany and Spain, and then those industries suffer a setback when the subsidies are cut.
Well, I think there's a lot of things about Germany and Spain that are very distinct from what we've done in Colorado. We haven't made a choice to go with the feed-in tariff. In fact, we put in place a 2% rate cap when we put our 20% renewable energy standard in place. The investor-owned utilities were able to build out to 20% underneath the 2% rate cap and then go to 30% without changing the rate cap. We're very mindful of energy pricing, of energy costs to the consumer, and we've been able to do and be aggressive about this with the kinds of rate caps that really I think consumers will say they'll absolutely take if, in fact, it has to do with building out and being aggressive about energy development. If you add to that the job creation, the job growth that's been part of our story in Colorado, that's a very positive thing.
Well, Governor, speaking of jobs, we have an unemployment chart that shows what it looks like in your state of Colorado. How do you turn that around, and how many of those jobs do you think, jobs that have now gone and perhaps are not going to come back, how do you train your population for green jobs? How do you promote that turnaround?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, there are a lot of those jobs that are going to come back the natural gas sector fell off heavily, but the price of natural gas went from $13 an MCF to $2. And so naturally, there's going to be a downturn in drilling. We see that coming back in part because we've been aggressive about promoting this transition from these inefficient, dirty coal plants to natural gas plants. I signed a bill that really we think is a template. So that's one way. But the second thing is to educate the workforce. We have a variety of things that are happening in a very significant way. We have our community colleges providing really a place for the workforce to be educated. We have a green jobs certificate that you can get from the community colleges in Colorado. Last week or 2 weeks ago, we just had a private college announce its first fully eco job institute. It's called it's a technology institute for the environment, and it's a private college, but it's going to educate a lot of people for the green job world.
All right, Governor, unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there. Bill Ritter, the Democratic governor from the state of Colorado. Governor Ritter, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Julie.